In this demo, I will go ahead and showcase the new vendor response tool on LA-RAMP. Currently signed in as a vendor on LA-RAMP, I will go ahead and click on this opportunity that we have set up for this specific demo. Once clicking on the opportunity, the vendor is taken to the opportunity details page. They can go ahead and look at all of the information required for the specific opportunity, as well as the opportunity document, which will be uploaded here as a document below. Vendors will now have access to this Respond to Opportunity button for opportunities that are in the open or amended stage. It is important to note that departments have the discretion to allow vendor responses to be collected via this new method. So, as a vendor, it's important to look through the solicitation document to determine if the department is allowing this new response tool. Clicking onto the Respond to Opportunity button, the vendor is now taken to this new vendor response page, where you can see all the different screens that the vendor must complete and all the fields required for a full response. Starting with the general information screen, the vendor must complete all of their general information, such as the name of their company, their contact person, job title, as well as the address of their main company, and the description of the work to be completed. You can see that some of these fields are already filled out. The system will automatically take some of the fields required during the registration process and pre-fill them during the response details. So moving on to the business information screen, the vendor is now asked to determine their business type, such as if they're a corporation, partnership, sole proprietorship, or joint venture. Selecting corporation, for instance, will require additional fields stated below. However, if you change the business type, you can see that the form will automatically adapt to that specific business type and require different information. Below that, the vendor is also required to fill out their workforce information, such as the total number of employees, the percentage working in the city, the percentage residing in the city, as well as any branch office locations and their prime principals if necessary. Onto the next screen here, we have business history. This is where the vendor fills out their Contractor Responsibility Ordinance questions or CRO questionnaire. They are first asked whether they would like to prefer to upload their previously completed CRO questionnaire instead of filling out a new one. If they select yes to this question, then the vendor is prompted to upload their document instead of filling out all of the questions down below. However, if the vendor answers no to this question, they will be prompted to answer the CRO questionnaire one question at a time via yes or no. If the vendor selects yes, then they will be prompted to fill out a justification field below. However, if the vendor selects no, they will go ahead and move on to the next question. Moving on to the next screen, subconsultant information, the vendor will add all of their subconsultants for this specific opportunity, as well as their subconsultants' principals, and the certification participation via total dollar amount and percentage across all of the subconsultants. The next screen, proposal documents, the vendor will be prompted to fill out their total proposed dollar amount, as well as uploading their proposal documents in these specific sections listed here. The department has the opportunity to break down how they would like the proposal documents to be submitted, such as cover letter, narrative, fee schedule, etc. You can also see there's an additional other field that the department can add additional information for a specific document. And a use case for this other field that you may see is for departments to submit vendor proposals in one single attachment through that same other field. Again, just for this specific demo, this other field is free for the department to allow for any sort of description. Moving on to the compliance documents screen, compliance documents will now be completed in a different manner. Instead of uploading and downloading all of the compliance documents through a library, they will now all be housed in this one specific screen. The vendor will view a compliance document as well as the legal language and a checkbox to say that they have read and agreed with the statements above. They will continue to do this for every single compliance document. However, for some compliance documents that require additional information, such as the Living Wage Ordinance or Service Contractor Worker Retention Ordinance compliance document, there's an additional option for if the vendor is exempt, in which if they select that, they will have to select the exemption form as well as uploading that specific exemption form down below. For additional documents, such as this Contractor Responsibility Ordinance Pledge of Compliance, you can see that for this specific checkbox, the language specifies whether or not the vendor will either attach the document or to attach the document during the contracting process. However, the vendor will still go ahead and click that checkbox to say that they agree. They can go ahead and upload any additional compliance documents. However, we'll go ahead and save and move on. For this next screen, we can see that the Form 50, Form 55, and non-collusion form compliance documents are in their own screens. In this Form 50, you can see that the vendor has to fill out additional fields in the same format as the current Ethics Form 50. Filling out all of these fields will be required for the specific compliance document's completion, and the vendor can go ahead and save and download all of the fields in the form format by clicking that download button. However, that download button is simply for the vendor's records. After filling out all of these fields, the vendor can now go ahead and click onto this review screen where they can review all of the different sections that they have filled out in one easy-to-view screen. They can go ahead and collapse each of these sections and view all of their responses, as well as uncollapse them for easy viewing purposes. After finished reviewing, the vendor will go ahead and click that next button and move on to the Certify screen, where the vendor can click Submit and submit the response for the department. You may notice that all of these alerts and pop-ups are showcasing that the vendor has incomplete sections. We are unable to prevent a vendor from submitting an incomplete response. However, we are giving as many notices as possible that the vendor has incomplete sections and may wish to go back to the response instead of submitting. Going back to the response, we can also see these exclamation points inside these red circles that showcases that this specific screen has incomplete fields. Going back to one of these screens, we can see that each of these fields that have the little red star icon are required. And moving on to proceed to the next screen, this pop-up will showcase when mandatory information is missing. And with that, the vendor has completed the response process, and once they certify and submit, the response will be taken directly into the department's hands. The department will only be able to view into your response once the opportunity moves to the close stage. While the opportunity is still in the open or amended stages, you as a vendor will be able to go back into this opportunity and respond as much as you would like. After submitting multiple responses, the department will only evaluate the most recent response.